Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the third edition of the SME Connect, a show that inspires, motivates, and supports SMEs and small businesses and bigger businesses as well in thinking the bigger picture. This is our third edition, and today we'll be discussing agribusiness. And in this agribusiness segment, we shall be joined by Mr. Aga Sekalala Jr., who is a very renowned agribusiness entrepreneur. He's a man of very many, is a man with very many levels of interest in the pandemic, but also someone who understands the sector quite well. To join us on this show, ladies and gentlemen, before I continue, is the three ways. One, you can join us on Twitter using the handle right below. And then you can also join us on Facebook using the same handle below, and on YouTube Live. On YouTube Live, go to a channel called SME Connect. Look out for SME Connect and you'll find us there. On YouTube, SME Connect, Facebook, Comrade Otoa Jr., and on Twitter, Comrade Otoa. So welcome to the show, Aga, and good evening.
Good evening, Tony. Thank you for inviting me. I hope you're staying safe. You sound like you're home.
I'm definitely home. You know, the new normal, we are allowed and we are perfectly enjoying the whole idea of working from our homes. It's quite an interesting time, but I guess it's a learning curve for all of us, and we're trying to really assimilate our lives into the new normal.
Okay, that's good.
And again, by the way, congratulations on a personal level. You are part of the COVID task force, which was instituted by the Office of the Prime Minister. That is a very huge task and a very huge contribution to the nation. I remember one of your colleagues saying it's not a paid-for role, it is a free role. So we gladly congratulate you upon that, and we hope that this is going on smoothly for you.
Thank you.
Yes. So Aga, agribusiness, you know, we've been discussing, and the first time we had an SME Connect, we discussed tourism, but more so the sectors that evolve themselves around tourism and how this will impact on, the businesses going forward, current COVID times, but also post-COVID. Now, that was a very insightful discussion with Amos Wekesa. And then we went in now to discuss as well with Patrick Butature last week about business generally, but again, focusing on the hospitality sector. How are things going? What should entrepreneurs be thinking post-COVID? How should we gear ourselves or make ourselves resilient to be able to survive COVID? And I guess the same disruption has happened in agriculture. I do believe agribusiness will not be the same. Looking at the fact that agriculture is very vital to our economy. In terms of the importance to our economy, I mean, people have to eat. And what we've also seen is the high involvement or high clarity in the need for people now to begin this serious discourse on agriculture that had been put in the back end. What is your conception, or how are you feeling it, you, Aga Sekalala, as Yuga Chick? How are you feeling this at a personal level?
Well, the COVID-19 pandemic has been a big shock to the system. As you know very well, that quite a number of outlets, quite a number of consumption points have had to be closed down because of the measures to control the pandemic. Social distancing is exactly anti our social behavior, where we typically consume a lot of agricultural products. Restaurants are closed, hotels are closed, there are no weddings, funerals are not attended by many people, and yet we've got to do these things in order to prevent the spread of this coronavirus. So with that, it means that naturally consumption has become way much less than it's normal. A lot of entrepreneurs, who we call agripreneurs, who are farming a few hundred, a few thousand chickens, have no market because they typically normally supply the hotels, they supply the restaurants, they supply the muchomo guy at the street corner, they supply the muchomo guy in front of the bar, and all these social gatherings, weddings, last funeral rites, introductory ceremonies, things that are focus of consumption are currently closed down. And in that process, the only place where people are going to encounter a lot of these products is it has to be in their home. But don't forget that most of the people are locked in their homes. They can make these short trips to the market, to the supermarkets, to the open air markets. But that in itself is a restriction, and that restriction is a resultant in reduced demand.
Right, right. That is quite interesting, though, Aga. But I mean, when I think about it, I mean, right now, everyone thinks agriculture is now the new thing. All your cooperatives who have been in their offices have realized, oh wow, we're buying a lot of food, off the markets and all of this, and this seems to be something that actually we should be getting into, So agribusiness now becomes the in thing. But again, there's this whole discussion that agriculture as a sector is not very, money making. It is the guys who take it from farm gate to the consumer who actually make the money, the agribusiness component of it. So, I mean, from your point of view, what do you see, or how do you see this evolving as we go along in these, next coming months post-COVID?
The post-COVID scenario is very hard to predict. I keep on telling everyone, if I knew what's going to happen, I probably wouldn't be sitting here. I'd probably be doing something different. But I think the few things are given, they're constants. Assuming that there are not hundreds and thousands and thousands and thousands of deaths, we assume that there's going to be a lot of people out there, and there's going to be the people will be willing. They have to get back to work. They will still need food. We've been in this situation where in these what we call depressed times, lockdown times, maybe perhaps our diets are a little bit restricted. So there's going to be demand for a wide variety of agricultural goods, and the feeling is that once we all get back to this slow, which is going to be a slow process. I think really the truth of it is it's not going to happen overnight, but it is going to happen. It is going to happen at some point. There is certainly going to be demand, and there's going to be a lot of demand for agricultural goods and goods and services. And I think that it is right that there's going to be a little bit of excitement around it. But I think it's got to be for those thinking about venturing and they have not been exposed to it. They have not been exposed to the risk. They've got to be thinking about doing it in a smart way. They've got to think about it doing it differently.
Right. Aga, this morning I think tweeted and tagged you on that tweet. I saw an airline that had actually transformed its seats into cargo areas, The seats were now acting as, I would call them or consider them cargo seats, carrying a lot of food from Uganda to the European markets and the Arab markets. In my opinion, I think this is quite an interesting thing. People are not moving, but food is moving. How do you think COVID has disrupted the agribusiness, especially when it comes to the export markets or the export sector in Uganda or globally? How do you think this disruption has come into play? Has it been significant, or can we ignore it and believe that hopefully soon everything will come back to normal?
I think disruption, as often said, is a word that is often misunderstood and also often used in a variety of ways. I am assuming that right now we're discussing disruption as in disturbed, and in that particular case, there has been a considerable amount of disruption, largely because, for instance, in the fruit and veg horticulture business, There's a big dependency. There's a big dependency on export in passenger aircraft. So basically, the daily aircraft, the daily KLM, the daily Qatar, the daily Emirates, those daily flights that leave the country keep on taking out large amounts of cargo with them. And the unavailability of these daily passenger flights means that produce has had to be either sold on the local market, and yet your consumers don't have ready access to the market. So that's the challenge, has been that what they call, when they say supply chain disruption, is things like passenger flights. Passenger flights are unavailable. Cargo flights tend to be also an option, but cargo flights require large volumes. And sometimes, if you look at, say, okra, or if you look at most produce, they are not produced in large enough volumes to be able. So they would have to be combined with flowers. They would have to be combined with fish or something like that.
Right. But I think, on a whole, I think this is still good. The fact that we still have sectors that are moving in this economy, making, agribusiness one of those sectors. Last week we were trying to see who the winners and the losers could be or would be. And, it was quite interesting that the hospitality sector would be massively hit. Sectors like, construction, in a way, would be hit. When it comes to agribusiness or agriculture, we don't see that really happening. And I think this is where we can actually say we could have an easy bounce back for many of the players in the sector. But, what does this mean for the Ugandan situation, for Uganda as a country? How does this all pan out for, a typical Ugandan company? How should we look at it in the perspective of a Ugandan company, like your company?
I think that's a good question. I think what we're talking about largely is that Uganda is situated in the center of this Great Lakes area. Uganda is in a fairly large market. I think the last time, or the last count, we were thinking about like 140, 150 million approximately. My numbers are not accurate, but around that much. So one of the things that you've got to remember that Uganda produces quite a bit of grain for the whole region. You've got to remember that Uganda can produce quite a bit of vegetables for the whole region. Uganda can produce a bit of fish. Uganda can produce. So there is this big area around which we are that has a large population, and the idea is that this is an opportunity for Uganda to feed this. We've got to be organized. We've got to understand the quality that we require. We've got to understand the propensity to consume. We've got to understand the market in general. But the idea is that there is an opportunity. You saw this with Southern Sudan when there was peace there. There were farmers. They were taking tomatoes. They were taking cassava. That was an opportunity, and a lot of people did quite well from this opportunity.
I actually see a situation where now we're going to be talking about more opportunity in the sense of health foods. If you focus on CNN or BBC or any of these foreign media, you will realize that everyone is talking about organic, good food. And where can you find that food? In Africa. So I think it provides an opportunity again for us to really provide a lot of these health foods. But also on the local market, we are seeing a lot of people, the likes of Dr. Kasenen, talking about healthy eating options, jinga, onions, garlic and all of these things. It provides an opportunity for many Ugandans who haven't been, really part of this thing. But with the European markets opening and demanding for more food, what advice would you give to an aspiring entrepreneur in this area?
I think you've got to be, any aspiring entrepreneur has to be smart about it. One of the things that certainly I think that is important is all entrepreneurs have to think of some way, some system of being collective. You're not going to do this alone. One person, however creative you are, I doubt you're going to be successful on your own. You're going to have to figure out if you can do groups and create some form of collectives. So basically, you can learn from each other. and then you can figure out how you can market, and you can figure out the people that are going to buy your produce. So there is a need for collaboration within the groups, and within the collaborations within the units in a certain area. I personally feel that it's time to think collectively. It is absolutely not time to think on your own as one person going out to grow okra or ginger or whatever health food you want to grow. It is time to think about this where you have good numbers. 10 of you get together, do something together. It's probably something similar, and in a similar area, and a little bit how to attach the markets and attract the
I think
customers.
this gives us a very good opportunity, especially as a country, getting that discussion that we've always kept behind, reaffirming this whole discussion or agenda on agriculture. Because, again, the more the government or the policymakers put an emphasis on this and give it prominence, just to connect with that, how would you push for a greater understanding of the agribusiness or agriculture sector? From your point of view, I mean, how do we push for a greater understanding of things or issues like value addition and the need for that as a way of becoming better or making more money post-COVID?
We first and foremost, we need to have we need to figure out a few things that we have a good competitive advantage in. We need to figure out what is it we can do. I think, for instance, something that a lot of people would say is common could be to say that you want to try and grow bogoya, but you might find that we just actually don't really have a competitive advantage in bogoya, and that there are countries in South America that do it so well, and they can export large amounts, and they've got economies of scale that bogoya might not be the right item. It is a good item. It might be something that seems to be interesting, but there might be an advantage in the niche markets for, say, something like gonja, but that's also something that might not be. So the first thing is really that there is a requirement, perhaps, by some of our export promotion institutions to work around giving a little bit more education and getting a little bit more knowledge out there. What is it that we can produce which has demand, which is interesting, which is right, unique, which has a selling point, a unique selling point in the markets where we want to sell it? That's a good starting point, and it is forums like this one where certainly a discussion with the executive director of the Export Promotion Board. He's very articulate. He knows the products that work, the products that don't work. It is a discussion with importers on the other side to try and understand what are they looking for. Once these discussions, I think the most important is for the aspiring entrepreneur to understand what is out there, get a bit more knowledge, read, understand how do you do this better. The second thing is to take away and not hope that they're going to do, say, rain-fed agriculture. It's important to think, what else can you do? How can you be all weather? How can you deal with adverse conditions? People have to understand that things have changed. You can't wait, that the rainy season is not going to come maybe when you think it's going to come. So it is with that in mind that people need to get, first of all, advice. They need to get advice. They need to get good advice. They need to get some learning. And I think a forum like this is brilliant. I think right, you need to continue on. You need to talk to expert promotion experts, and there are plenty of these people. And then you need to talk to buyers, importers on the other end. What are they looking for? What do they like? What don't they like? Where do they have problems? Then we need to build around the ecosystem. We need to understand that this is not, like I said earlier, it's not one-man show. There's not that one person who's going to be superb. You got to get your logistics providers. You got to get your cold chain. You got to get your transporters. You got to decide, are you going to be organically certified, for instance? That requires a whole host of other things that need to be done. And the list goes on and on and on. But aspiring entrepreneurs need to be, one, have the will, B, have the patience, and two, be ready to learn and listen, and kudos to yourself and your institution for starting these sorts of discussions, and I think that it is a good starting point.
So for those who are just joining us right now, you can join us on SME Connect, that is on YouTube, and on Twitter it's Comrade Otoa, and on Facebook rather it's Comrade Otoa Jr. So Aga, we're now going out to something more specific and more interesting or personal, because I believe many people would want to know, who is Aga? This time I began with a bigger picture. I usually start with the introduction of the person, but this time I wanted us to have a grounded conversation about the subject and then get into the person and what they do and your advice for businesses that want to venture into agribusiness. So Aga, who is Aga Sekalala Jr.?
Thank you, Tony. For this particular discussion, I am Aga Sekalala Jr. I'm the Executive Director of Ugachik Poultry Breeders, a company that was started in 1992, an agri-processing company. We basically are a poultry business. Our focus is white poultry meat. We're a breeding company. We breed poultry to produce day-old chicks. We produce animal feeds, and we produce dressed chicken. We also produce floating fish feed. We produce sinking fish feed for catfish, and tilapia in Lake Victoria in Wigwe. And it's like I said, it is an old business. It's an old family business, and I am second generation owner.
Wow, this is quite interesting, because you see, one of the biggest challenges for most businesses, including agribusiness, is succession planning. There's always an area or an issue where the moment the person that started the business or the person who started the business passes on or is retired and moves on, the business seems to come to a grinding halt. How have you managed succession planning at Ugachik? I mean, look at all the different enterprises or franchises you have. How have you managed to deal with the issue, or how did you manage to deal with the issue of succession planning and succession eventually in your business?
I can't. It's hard to say that there is this one thing that needs to be done, or there's two or three things. With family businesses, the most important thing is to understand that it is a family business. It's owned by the family, for the family, and the way we look at ourselves, one of the fundamental things we do, the way we look at ourselves is we all look at ourselves as caretakers, as our great-grandchildren's assets. And that makes it very clear, and it is an old family tradition that we're only caretakers. We're not really owners. We're just holding on to some
holding on for the next generation.
Asset. Yes, we're holding on to assets for future generations. So one is, we've got to think about the business very, very, very long term. While there are the day's issues, there is a recession looming. There is many things. We've got to think out 10 years. We've got to think out 15 years. Hopefully we'll still be alive. Hopefully that, we won't be hit by a meteorite that we have in front of us. But the idea is that you've always got to be thinking about the business long term. We still think about, what do we want to be doing, not just this year. We don't look at a budget cycle. We look at 10 years out. And sometimes the things that we're trying to do take a little bit of time. We're not as quick, but we're thinking about the business long term. The other things that we always keep on doing as a family business is, you always are keeping something aside for a rainy day. And that's one of the big feature of a typical feature of a family business. You have to have solid reserves all the time, because you always know that you're gonna get a shock. You can't run the business that you're highly leveraged and you have no cash reserves, and you sort of run the business on the edge. It doesn't quite work that way. You've got to be thinking, what is it that we need to survive, and how do we survive long term? And we always think that there's going to be a rainy day, and that's how we approach this thing.
And I guess for many businesses out there, the serving culture is quite low. The idea that business is just something that incoming, outgoing, incoming, outgoing. The serving culture hasn't been one that has been adopted by many businesses. Our last two guests actually had the same thing as one of their major focus, the idea of saving and saving for this rainy day. And I hope COVID is kind of teaching a lot of SMEs why this is really important. And hopefully when we get out, that can also be a major thing. But Aga, in your business, being a generational business, and I guess there's some young guys out there who are listening to us, a lot of tech guys, the role of technology has become very, very crucial in agribusiness. We cannot hide this fact. I have had a chance of interacting with guys like Acorion and all these other guys who have innovated around technology for agriculture. How have you seen agriculture invade your space and become one of those things that you can actually take on to be more productive and more sustainable, but also more resilient in the long run?
Technology is an important component of any business. You've got to think. What are the things that you need to do to make your business competitive. You also got to think, what are the things that you need to do to make your business work? If I run my business in such a way that I can't execute a conference call like we have now, then certainly I'm already becoming uncompetitive in today's environment. So I've got to be thinking, what are the things that are needed? Right. What are the things that are needed to ensure that, one, the business simply and purely can function, rain or shine kind of thing. The second thing is that you've got to think about the business a lot from the point of view is, what are the areas where you can cut costs? What are the areas where you can make work streams shorter, work streams simpler? And this is one of the ways to look at technology. It is not to think a lot in terms of shiny gadgets, but it is a lot to think about work in terms of how do you make life not just easier, but how do you make the business competitive? How do you make the business faster in the way it does things? How do you basically make things move faster? Yeah. And that's the way we think about technology. Our business is not a business that says very computer IT type of business, but we have a lot of systems around us where we are all the time trying to make life easier. We're trying to figure out how can customers see us easier, how can we make it more transparent. And some of these things are not very easy to implement. They're not to order their chicken simply by using their mobile money. Mm-hmm. But it's been a long journey and it's taken a little bit of time. So we're constantly trying to use available technology. We also have to make sure that is the technology available with the consumer, with the user? Can it be easier for them to work it? It is not enough just to see that there is a technology you like and you think that it's going to work and it's going to make a big... The internet is a brilliant tool, but you need to make sure that it will work in all the places.
That's
where
very
you
true. It's quite interesting because a lot of young people were trying to innovate around, this digital platform for agribusiness. But, that now brings me to the, I'm trying to interlock it with the idea of dealing with your supply chain or how you can deal with the supply chain. You have managed an efficient supply chain for quite some time. Your advice on how to manage an efficient supply chain in the agribusiness world?
There is no one size fits all. I think one of the things that you have to think about all the time is, what is the product? What are you looking at doing? And I'll just perhaps maybe just tell a little bit about what we do. For instance, the product that most people know now, is our dressed chicken. It's not always been that way. Dressed chicken is one of our more recent products that we have, but one of the things that you have to think about is, how do you get it to the final end consumer? One is, you need to decide, where are you actually going to display or sell this product? You need to know very clearly, where is it, who's going to buy it, and how is he going to get to it? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, you need somebody to put their hands in their pocket and actually buy this product. So it's one way to think about it. So for us, we think very much about the outlets. Where do we sell our products?
Okay.
And we're very selective about really where do we want our products to be? And we try and make sure that our products is, they call it an arm's length. I mean, it's the famous Coca-Cola. We want to be within an arm's length of wherever the consumer is to be able to reach it. And I think that is one of the more interesting models that you can look at. First of all, understand how can you make sure that your product is accessible. Then the second question becomes, how do you get the product there? And one of the challenges we have in the breast chicken business is actually delivering a frozen product from the factory to the end consumer, because that's the integrity of the product. And you've got to think about it that way. One of the challenges, some of the other products are not as complicated. If you want to make a hand cream, or you want to make a aloe vera product, maybe, or some of those things, it might not be the same. But if you're making a snack, you might some of the snacks might really require you, for instance, to maintain them at a certain temperature. So you need to figure out what is it that you need to operate at. So how do you transport? That in our business is a big infrastructure and a large cost, because it's actually refrigeration. And so we've got a huge number of fleet of trucks that we use that every morning go out, fan out, go to our distributors, and then finally deliver the product and to some of our what we call key customers. And from the key customers and some of the key distributors actually have very, very, very simple technology at that point, because they're very near the customer. Some of them are very near. For instance, now there's been a boom in home delivery. So a lot of our distributors in Tinda, distributors in Bugolobi, distributors in Rubaga are being called by the customer and saying, can you deliver 5 kilos, a 5 kilo bag of Yuga Chick Super to us at our home, or maybe 10 kilos, two 5 kilo bags, or 5 2 kilo bags. And now at this point in time, the product is frozen. It's been maintained at a very cold temperature of -7 or -8. It's just a border ride. So meaning that the person picks up the product out of a freezer. So the distributor has to have a freezer, and a freezer that works, puts it on a bike, and then delivers it maybe 3, 5, 10 minutes away, and delivers it to the home of the consumer. Now, this is something that we're now working on to make sure that the distributor has a number of riders who can deliver from the distribution point to the final point. And at that point in time, the transaction is quite easy. With mobile money, it's very convenient, and it can be done. It can be done at the speed and the efficiency that the customer is happy. They get their product in time. They know it's come from a place of integrity, and at the same time, the distributor is sure that I'm not too worried. It's 5 minutes away. Even if it is on a bike, it is going to get there in good space. Now, different products will have different supply chains. The product that I like a lot, that I enjoy going out to the supermarkets and going into the frozen section and looking around at the chicken and looking around at other products and my competitors and understanding what they're doing, how they're pricing, how they're positioning their products. But typically when I'm done with that, I always like to go and look at the snack section. And so I like to look at, the crispy snacks, the groundnuts that are packed in a little way, the groundnuts and the sim that are mixed together. Because I believe that this is where the creativity, and I'm always looking, one of the questions I keep on asking myself, who's got an interesting snack that I can find? And who's got an interesting snack that I should buy today and go and try out? And I'm always willing to try out something. And typically I'm always looking and I say, has this been packed properly? Is the appearance good? Is it clean? Is it hygienic? If something doesn't look nice, it doesn't look hygienic, it's not really packed well, it looks like somebody used the candle to stitch the polythene bag, then definitely I'm not going to buy that. But I'm always looking
Right.
who's got a good idea, who's got a nice, unique package. And sometimes I've seen some very interesting products, and some of them really have done a brilliant job in what they're doing, and they're foods, and they're produced here in Uganda. They have been preserved. Banana chips have been preserved. Little pieces of pumpkin have been preserved, and then they're packed in a really nice package. And I'm very proud of. I'm very proud of this.
That's quite interesting. Which again brings me to another point, Aga. You have been very much part of the entrepreneurship discourse in this country. I think I've met you a couple of times on a panel, trying to do what we call the Dragon's Den of Uganda. I believe that there's some of these innovations you've just talked about seem like very interesting innovations that you could actually tap into. So hopefully I can open up a challenge at the business incubator and have you come and motivate a lot of young people, because it's very important that the youth are really inclined into agribusiness.
I'm always keen to. My schedule can be a little bit hectic, but I'm always willing and able to take a little bit of time out to inspire the youth. If it is a business challenge or if it is a competition, it is always interesting to see new ideas. One of the things that I keep on telling all the contestants and all the contest organizers is one of the things that I find actually is that I actually learn more about my own business by actually going out there and taking a look. I find that I learn a lot of things. I learn a lot of little incremental things that people are doing, and I use it as I use them as an opportunity to go back to the classroom. I think about it as boot camp for me.
So you're relearning. You're relearning. I have had this with my last guest say the same thing. You're saying the same thing. Relearning.
You're learning. Yes, you're relearning. So basically, if you go out and look at a young, a new upstart idea, sometimes there's one or two or three things that they're doing very well, and those things actually apply, and it is important. Sometimes it is the packaging. Sometimes it is an approach to solving a problem. And so I'm always keen. I make the time, and I do attend, because not because I enjoy contributing, and not because I enjoy being an objective judge, but largely because I always learn something new. And every time I go to these things, I am amazed about how many notes I scribble down. I have my notebook, and it is full of notes.
Right. I mean, this is quite interesting, Aga, because you see, I think the biggest challenge for youth right now is understanding the agribusiness sector. Many of them want to venture into it, but many of them do not fully understand it. And of course, because many people have taunted it as not being very productive financially in terms of the money in the pocket sense, many of them have swayed away from it. What opportunities would you see or envisage for the youth in this sector moving forward as a way of closing this conversation, Aga?
I think that it's to. I think the first place is to spend quite a bit of time listening and learning, trying to understand exactly what is out there. What is it that you have a passion for? What is it that you have the capability of doing? I have a good friend who does small spices and packages them into small units, and he's got an interesting business. It's milling the spices, mixing the spices, blending the spices. He doesn't grow any of these spices. He's just trying to sit down and mill. He's got an interest. He enjoys doing this sort of thing, and he has created an enterprise. He has created an enterprise that feeds him, maintains his family, educates his children. My thinking is, and like I said, I love the snack sector. I think that Ugandans will eat snacks that they're familiar with. People want to eat snacks that they grew up eating. I mean, a lot of people just don't have an opportunity to eat kabalagala like we used to eat, the one that has a little bit of chili in it. So what else can you do? What else can you do with kabalagala? How can you bring it into the modern times? How can you make it into a biscuit? I don't know. I mean, there's lots of ideas out there. And I think if you're down the food line, down the value addition line, and into areas where you've got a passion, areas where you think that you can actually bring something to light, you can bring some value. I mean, some people are very good at baking. Some people know how to make biscuits. Some people know how to make buns, cakes. I mean, that's all that is there. On the agribusiness side and growing things, I think that the challenge that we tend to have is we don't have many global rich agricultural people, and I think that clearly you've got to have low aspirations because everybody looks to Jeff Bezos and thinks, well, I mean, all the money is in delivery and books and e-knowledge and cloud computing, and so is Bill Gates, so is this, so that tends to be we don't have enough role models that inspire the youth, and yet nearest to them is this land, and nearest to them are these mouths that need to be fed. The thinking needs to be the thinking and the discussion needs to continue. I think that it's early days. I think that we're going to have a very big population, and the population needs to eat.
Aga, you've been fantastic. I think you're one of the best role models I can actually put out there for a lot of young people, but also a lot of retired people, because you do realize when people retire, the first thing they think about is, how can I use my NSSF money to get into agriculture as a way of surviving in my retirement? So you are actually a very good role model, Aga, and I would strongly encourage you to, come visit us at the Business Incubator and motivate more young people. But most important of all as well, for the young people out there who do not actually know, Aga is a chemical engineer, right? One of the first chemical engineers in this country, even before we started discussing oil and gas. And of course, this is from, again, a fantastic and prestigious university in the US. Aga, thank you very, very much for joining us on this program today. And I must say, you're always an inspiration. You're always someone we'll keep running into. And I hope that you can come and join our entrepreneurship program as one of our chief mentors when it comes to agribusiness. Asante sana, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you for for a chance to speak to all your fans and viewers. I wish you all a good evening. Stay home, stay safe, and keep to the rules. The Ministry of Health has given guidelines. Listen to them. Stay safe. Wash your hands. Use a sanitizer. Keep your social distance. Do all the right things. We need you alive. We need you to eat. We need you to come back and be part of the next. We need you to come back and be part of the next boom cycle that we will have.
That's definitely going to be.
Thank you. You're a great host, and it is always good to have a chat. And the Business Incubator is a nice place. Like I said, I enjoy coming through. I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And again, asante sana.